Welcome to Starting Nowhere. I'm your host, Brandon. Make sure you like and subscribe to see more Starting Nowhere. And check us out on Facebook so you can join in on the conversation and see guest features that I do. Today, I'm very excited because I have my friend, Kevin Gallagher, also known as Uncle Coach Kev. Thanks for checking out this episode of Starting Nowhere. A writer for Jiu-Jitsu Times, and all-around great person. Please enjoy today's episode. All right, well, thank you very much, sir. I'm very excited for you to be here today. Uncle Coach Kev in the flesh, well, the digital flesh anyways. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody about yourself, because I know a lot more than I need to know about you.
we know each other quite intimately. I've known you for years, man. I think it's going on 10 years now, something like that. That's a long time. That's a decade. Man. It's a decade. You're getting old when you can think of things in terms of decades. That's how old you are now. But,
that's all I think about things in is decades now.
Exactly. My life is literally broken up into decade. Like I remember my 20s, I remember 30s, I'm in my 40s. It's kind of creepy when you think about things like that. But anyway, about me, I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt. I just got my my professor stripes on my my black belt. That means I've been a black belt for 4 years now, which is pretty cool. I've been training altogether probably about 12, I think, is the total number. I love jiu-jitsu. It's my life. It's the only thing I do all day long. I wake up in the morning, I teach private lessons, I write freaking jiu-jitsu articles, I do jiu-jitsu podcasts. I like to train, I like to compete. I haven't been competing as much, but in the past, I competed quite a bit. I'm a multiple-time IBJJF world champion, a brown belt masters. I always make sure I say that so it doesn't sound too pretentious. But it's a big thing to win the worlds. It was a tough thing for me to do. I won it in the gi and in no gi. I compete quite often. I was competing quite a bit for a long time on the professional grappling circuit. Professionally in quotations, because it's only professionally if you get paid, and like the amount I get paid is literally like bus fare and and maybe some breakfast the next morning. But like there is a professional jiu-jitsu circuit that I've been competing on quite often, and I've managed to make somewhat of a name for myself in that community, and it's pretty cool. I'm enjoying that ride. It allows me to make my living off of what I love.
And you said a lot there. And I think one of my favorite things about people in jiu-jitsu is, first of all, how humble they are. Most of them, not all of them. We all know there's a couple douchebags out there, but you are somebody who, if people will ask me about you, they're like, oh, I saw you in a picture with Kevin Gallagher, and I'm like, you're like Uncle Coach Kev. Yeah, I know that dude for like ever. So you're like, you have that level of fame where there are people who absolutely see you and go, holy shit, that's XYZ, but then you walk down the street, nobody's like stopping you for autographs all the time and shit like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is good. Again, that's one of the crazy things about this sport that we do. Like, you can watch them on the UFC and probably go train at their gym in next week and see them. That's a really weird thing, because no matter how much I play basketball at the YMCA, I'm not going to fucking LeBron James.
LeBron James ain't coming in for a pickup game on the weekends with you, right? It's a good point. Yeah, but it's cool. I always make this distinction. Like, I'm a relatively big deal, kind of big deal, maybe marginally big deal in a very small circle, but it's still pretty cool. Like, I was at the Worlds this last weekend coaching a couple of our guys, and like people will come up to me and want to take pictures with me, and like, oh, hey, well, I saw your podcast, Coach Evan, I like it, you're awesome. And it always freaks me out, just simply because I'm like, man, whatever, dude. Like, I guess I'm not that big, whatever. If you think I'm a big deal, it's cool. I kind of dig it. But there's also part of me that takes a responsibility in realizing that for whatever reason, this person is motivated by me. This person is inspired by me. And who am I to tell them not to be? Why? So when someone comes up to me and wants to take a picture, especially kids or something like that, I take it upon myself to realize, it's my responsibility. Well, however weird I might think it is, to say, sure, man, take that picture with me, because for whatever reason, you think it's a big deal and you think it's important to you. So it's important to me.
Yeah. And dude, that's one of the coolest things that somebody like you in your position could say, because you want the people to feel that way. But a lot of times people can keep either busy or kind of jaded by that. They can get jaded by the fame, or at whatever level they get it. You see somebody who's in like a local fucking car commercial, and then all of a sudden they're too good to talk to people at like McDonald's or whatever.
Exactly. So, it's like, oh yeah, first of all, dude, like there's about 8 people the last month that have said hi to you. Don't act like don't act like you got to put your scarf and your sunglasses on when you're walking commercial on Basic K last week.
Yeah, exactly. And that just goes to show who they are as a person. Because they always say, like, if you're a piece of shit before you're famous and you have money, you're gonna be a piece of shit when you're famous and have money. You know what I mean? It doesn't like necessarily change the fundamentals of who you are. And that's true about you. You've always been a down to earth, a really cool dude for anybody who's known you. So I don't see any reason why that would change when people are coming up to you. So, but also shout out to the people I haven't had a chance to say anything about this shit. But like, shout out to you, man, for the Professor Stripe. I did see that, and congratulations on that. Well deserved, obviously. And then also Parker fucking getting silver at Masters is insane. And then just to explain to everybody who doesn't know why that's insane, Parker is an amateur Muay Thai champion who didn't really pick up jiu-jitsu until his 30 near 40s or something like that, right? So he really has only been jiu-jitsu for the past 7 years or something like that. I don't know.
7 years, something like that.
Yeah, so he's a striking guy. He's been a martial arts his whole life, but always striking, always loving kicking people in the face. And now he likes, take him down and choke him out as well and getting silver. That's a pretty impressive feat. And then just a lot of guys too. I think I saw Steve Freestone out there and all those guys
Steve Freestone had a big day. He had the biggest day of all of them. He won 2 solid matches against 2 solid competitors and ended up losing in the finals to a guy who caught him in a choke he wasn't aware of. He actually got choked unconscious. Steve Freestone was flopping around the ground and kind of creeped me out a little bit. It was like, oh no, this is weird. But we had a lot of guys do well. We had 3 gold medals. Maria won a gold at brown belt. Pete Malinelli won gold at brown belt. And then we had 2 silver medals with Eric Parker and Steve Freestone. It was a fun day. I was out there coaching the majority of the week last week, and it was cool to see all those guys out there compete well. Your students, guys that I work with and train with all the time. We go out there and watch them succeed in what they do, which is really fun. The Masters is a great thing. It really is, because it's not about like all the fame and fortune. It's just a bunch of dudes that are old, that love to compete, that want to go out there and prove themselves they can do it, to say they're a world champion. There's something pure to that I really appreciate about the Masters all the time.
Yeah. So I want to round that out. Definitely shout out to Maria. Maria's an awesome person. Love Maria. I don't know why, but I feel like I need to not give Pete credit on the podcast. I feel like that's a thing that goes on with Pete, is that he doesn't get credit for being good at things because he wears a leather jacket and comes in a motorcycle helmet. So he's just not allowed to get credit for things. But also congratulations to Pete as well. I think Pete's done that a couple times now as well, right?
That guy spends more money on shoes than I do on rent in a year. So let's say he doesn't get the compliment. Screw him.
Hair product, and then you do
hair products. Exactly.
That's awesome, man. But no, that's always great. I think it's a kind of this external validation because, when I walked into GTS and signed up and everything like that, I'm like, this is home. And then I trained there, for like a decade or whatever, going other places and always come back. And like, this felt right to me. And then now seeing a lot of that validated with the guys in the UFC, you've got people winning jiu-jitsu tournaments, you got all these things happening. And so it's kind of cool to see that because you're like, I've known what we've had here for a while. And now everybody else is kind of figuring that out as well. And so it's really cool to see that on some level, especially for, like I said, for somebody like you, who's a black belt into the gym and who's been there. I don't know. How long have you been at GTS now?
2009, I think, was when I started. 2008, 2009. So it's been 11, 12 years.
Dude, you see, that's crazy, man. That's freaking awesome. And that's crazy.
I always tell the story. Like I was in the gym, running sparring with Troy Taylor the day that Billy Q and freaking Matt Frivola walked in the gym. First time they walked in the gym. Still to this day, I thought they were buddies from back home in New York. They just happened to be like they happened to be, in the area, and they happened to both want to start training, and they happened to both be from New York, but they didn't know each other. It took me about 3 years before I realized that they weren't friends from Long Island. They both walked in the gym at the same day, at the same time to start training, end up in the UFC together. It's a pretty amazing story to watch guys progress like that. And then to think about all the guys that thought they were going to make it, that tried to make it, that kind of fell off and didn't pan out for them. It's not easy to make it to that long haul, and you can see we're talking 10 years later, 8 years later that we get there. That's what it takes to get the UFC, kids. It ain't an easy road.
And that's the one thing that I've seen the most, man, is that the people who walked in and told you they're going to be in the UFC and stuff like that. And again, not saying that it's a bad goal or bad mentality to come in with, but there's a lot of those people who came in with that energy. They just did not make it. You'd see them like maybe wouldn't even make it to blue belt, some of them, because when you come in with that energy and people understand what that actually means and they put you in the first time sparring, you get hit a couple of times and you realize, oh shit, I'm not as tough or as good as I thought I was going to be. And then you have people like Q and you have people like Frivola, yourself, Alon, all those other guys, Marcos, all those dudes who kind of just stay. And they're like, no, I knew this is what it was and I'm still here. And you have a lot of those people who came in, and as Billy Q said, and when he was on here, he said South Tampa douchebags who think they're a tough guy and come in, get hit a couple of times, or get choked out by Maria or Sonia or somebody like that, and they're like, no, this isn't for me. I don't have the heart for this.
There's so many people with so many fragile egos that can't handle the fact that they're going to get their ass kicked for a while. There's no way around that. I don't care how big or tough you are. You are going to get your ass kicked for a long, long time until you learn how to not get your ass kicked. That's what the beauty of jiu-jitsu is all about. I was talking about this earlier on another podcast about this. I talk about all the time. It's one of my credos. Like, jiu-jitsu is one of those rare things that will give you what you're missing. If you're an egocentric, arrogant prick, like, it's going to humble you. If you're weak and more timid, it's going to give you strength. It takes what you need and it gives it to you if you're willing to put the time in and keep working, but you have to be willing to do that.
Absolutely, man. It's one of those weird things that it's just really hard to explain unless you've been there, because like you talked about, some of my best friends I've made bleed. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's not something that you can really say for too many people. And I think that that's just great. I've met some of my best friends, you know, a lot of my best friends have come from being on the mat. You know, I was best man in Ian's wedding. And we met when I was helping Billy Q coach striking and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So you just form those kind of relationships through that. And then also build a relationship with yourself in a lot of ways, because when you're on that mat, man, it doesn't matter who your coach is, doesn't matter who your teammates are, you're on that mat, that's you. And you have to be there present for your own self. And I think there's not a lot of activities that people go through in their day-to-day life that force that upon them. A lot of times we can kind of be a shadow, if you will, or whatever, you know, kind of fade back. But when you're on a mat, nobody's going to come save your neck from that dude's arm, you know?
No, it's just the ultimate nullifier, the ultimate equalizer. It's you and the guy in front of you, and there's nothing else anybody else can do about it.
Absolutely. And so, man, something we were kind of talking about before we got recording here and everything, and something I saw and it was great to see is, I don't remember what it was. You tell me your own timeline for this, but I think it was like 5 years ago or something like that. You were training, you've always trained, and you were just kind of like, you trained because you liked jiu-jitsu. Like you said, it was something you were fun about and you enjoyed and everything like that. And then something happened. I don't know what it was, and you can tell me maybe, but you decided, you know what, I want to be really competitive with this. I want to make this like really my life and all this type of stuff. And you dropped weight, you got fucking shredded, and then you started competing, and then you won, like you said, 3 times now, world masters, a brown belt, you got your black belt, you just became this badass who's like, now you're doing fight to win super fights and all this stuff. You're like, you've got some repute, and now you're writing for jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. What kind of happened there that really made you go, you know what, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to really focus in on this and make this shit happen?
So first of all, I've always been a competitor for as long as I can remember. It's just been something that drives me. I don't know if it's because I had a rough childhood. I don't know if it's because I needed attention from whatever reason, but there was always something about competing on the mat, and particularly in one-on-one scenarios. I mean, I played soccer and all that stuff. It was amazing, but like wrestling and boxing were always things that kind of like I shined at, that I shined to, that I like craved. You know, it filled a hole for whatever I was needing, and it was something that I did. Everything was right when I was on the competition mat. And you know, I started off wrestling, then I started boxing, and I had, you know, aspirations of being a professional boxer. But at the time, in my early 20s, I was just I was kind of a fuck up. You know, I was fucking partying all the time, and, you know, drinking, doing all kind of drugs and crazy shit. So I never really focused on it as much as I should have. It was always like, oh, cool, you know, well, it'll be there. I'm going to party this week, and, you know, next week I'll go out and do this stuff. And then when I started getting to the point where I was really going to take it serious, I started getting some pretty bad concussion problems. I had a really nasty concussion that had post-concussion syndrome that lingered for about 6 months. It was a really bad thing. So I convinced myself at that point, you know, I've always been a pretty intelligent person, and I'd always seen old boxers punch you not be able to complete sentences. So I said, you know what, I'm going to kind of back off on this, and you know, and stop boxing for my health reasons. So I gave up boxing. Then I started doing jiu-jitsu because I was thinking about doing MMA and quickly realized I couldn't do it for the concussion problems. I kept creaking back up again. So I said, you know what, I'm doing jiu-jitsu, and this is something just because I dig it. It'll keep me in shape. I love being in some kind of competitive apparatus, but I was never really taking it as seriously as I should have. So about 5 years ago, I was halfway through my purple belt, maybe about to get my brown belt. I had just got my brown belt. I had a string of unfortunate events pop up in my life, and they all happened all at once. My father died of cancer. I lost my job 13 years. I was a bartender at the Palm for 13 years. I lost that job that the restaurant went under.
I got a DUI, which sucked. It's horrible. It shook my life up. If you ever got a DUI, it'll shake your whole life up. And my girlfriend broke up with me. So it was just 4 things that just completely shook my life. At the time, my father was so inspirational to me and such a figure of, a reason for me to continue to go, to prove to him that I was worthy of his love. And, I loved him, but he was a very special, probably my best friend in the entire world. And I felt just lost and listless. I felt like I had no direction. And I decided at that point that I was going to focus all of my energy on competing in jiu-jitsu. And I thought to myself, the one thing I wanted to do, they had the ADCC trials down in Miami. I said, you know what? I'm going to go back to the thing that kept me sane and kept me from going down and kept me from going down the spiral from a young age. I'm going to go back to that and start competing again. So I decided I'm going to get ready for the ADCC trials. I'm going to bust my ass. At the time, I was unproven, didn't have any kind of real legitimate competition experience. I'm going to go do these ADCC trials and I'm going to bust my ass. I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to train like I would train if I was being a professional fighter because I know how to do that. I've been around it for so long and dedicate myself to it. Well, long story short, I went down and I took 3rd place at the trials back in as a brown belt. I think it was 2010 or 12 or something like that. I don't remember what year. 14 maybe I think it was. But anyway, a long time ago. So off of that, I realized, when you do something on that level and you finish 3rd place at an event that prestigious, automatically you think to yourself, wow, like I can do this. Like I deserve to be here. This is something that like I achieved, that I deserve to be on that big stage. I can compete with these guys. I can hang with those guys, and it empowers you. So I had the Worlds coming up, Master Worlds. So I said, you know what? I'm going to train my ass off. I'm going to go compete these Master Worlds. I'm in good shape. So I went out and I won the No-Gi Master Worlds in California that year. I won my division. I won the absolute. Then later that year, I'm still a brown belt. I said, hey, you know what? The gi worlds are coming up too. The gi master worlds are coming up too. I'm going to get in shape for that. I'm going to go out and train. I won that too. So I won it in the gi. I won it in no-gi. And I was just on a roll. I was on a tear. And from that moment on, I realized that, wow, like I can figure out a way to make a living doing the thing that I love, which is competing, because you're not necessarily going to make as much money on the competition mat, but the private lessons that come with it, the podcast, the notoriety that come from that gives me my clout and my ability to go up and open gyms up and do other things that come on along that line. But basically, it was born from my need to keep myself sane, because I'm a very, I can go to some dark places sometimes. I have some depression issues. I have some problems that bother me. And every time I've ever gone, felt like I was going to jump off the edge, I pull myself back in by focusing on being a competitor, focusing on pushing myself to the limits and realizing that I still have vitality in myself because of that. And here we are now.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing those intimate details, man. I always appreciate when people are willing to talk about that, because there's people out there who are going through the same thing, and hearing people like yourself who are accomplished what you've accomplished definitely helps them out. So I do appreciate that. But man, that's crazy. I think it's great when somebody, like I said, can focus that energy into something so positive. And you hear that story from different fighters for different reasons, for a lot of different people. And it's always something that really impresses me about the human spirit, but all more importantly, about the spirit of that individual, yourself included, because you could have easily, like you said, gone a different path. You could have gone a different route with that. And that's how a lot of people find themselves in, in crime or whatever else they end up getting into, because that energy is going to go somewhere. You can't sit there and contain and sit on it. Right. So going through what you did and getting there and now being an inspiration to all these people you're talking about, I think that's a great full circle. So just tell me a little bit more about how that competition drive kind of like keeps pushing you. Do you think that that's still what's getting you? Or do you think that that's kind of now it's just jiu-jitsu is who you are? That's kind of like your identity almost.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously who I am now. It's a part of my identity. I can't imagine myself like I haven't had a 9-to-5 job my entire life. I don't think I'd ever be able to at this point. I've worked in bars and I've done other things to hustle here and there to make money and figure out a way to keep myself alive. I don't think I could ever, fill in a tie and walk into a building. I just don't think I could figure out a way to do it anymore. Sit in a clock and sit behind a desk for 9 hours a day would make me nuts. I don't know that not make me nuts. I just don't know I could do it.
Yeah.
But kind of now. I've gotten to the point where I'm really, it's funny. I had my last match I had last 2 weeks ago in the fight to win. It was
Yeah.
the first time when I really felt that I don't really have it anymore on the actual adult level of competitive. When we talk about adult, you talk about adult is like the
Yeah.
everyday dudes, and then we have the masters, which are the old guys. Like I went back and I watched my match, and as I was watching it, I thought to myself, it was a competitive match because the other guy was a masters guy, and I lost, but that's not the point. It was a very competitive match. I'm not disappointed with my performance whatsoever.
Yeah.
But watching that match and watching the replay of it, I realized that wow, like this is very competitive, but it was also two old dudes going at it, And I have kind of recently got to the point, even before that, where like I just don't have the fire. Whatever I needed to fill that void in my life, I have found some form of inner peace to keep me going. And I've still talk to counselors. I do some things to kind of keep myself sane and come back to the light again. But I found something to keep me motivated in my writing. I found something to keep me motivated in my teaching. I love to teach private lessons through my podcast, being involved in that aspect to kind of take the edge off and the need to have to push myself to those deep, deep, dark places of competition. Because I go dark, man. I get pretty dark when I compete. I don't know if you ever seen me before, but when I get on a competition mat, like something changes. Like the old happy, smiling Coach Kevin ain't there no more. I dig in to channel some very, very, very dark energy. When I was competing the other night, revisiting that darkness was something that I didn't really enjoy. I thought to myself, I'm doing it because I need to, because I want to win, because obviously I want to win.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was an odd feeling of remembering, wow, like, have I been doing this for so long just to channel, just to give an excuse to get this darkness to be able to come out and then put it out on the competition mat? Like, I don't really need it anymore. But anyway, I don't remember the question, but I guess that's what we're talking about.
No, you're good, man. You answered it perfectly. I think one of the things you're talking about there, it, again, is a beautiful thing about this process for a lot of different people, and it's again different for everybody. But is that you're coming out that other side where that competitive spirit, the darkness like that you had, was able to get you through to where you are now. But now you've kind of grown past it in the most healthy of ways. You've kind of gotten to the other side of that, where now giving back to people, being involved in other ways, maybe teaching the next generation, like you talked about before, potentially opening the gym in the future, all these things now become that replacement for the darkness. But now it's almost, and I hate to say this because it sounds super cliche and cheesy, but it's true. Now it becomes your lightness. Now it becomes you giving out that light to other people where you used to have that darkness that you were kind of holding in within yourself. So I think you came out the other side of it, and like I said, the best way possible. And now you can make a real impact with people. So, and like you were just talking about, that was the next thing I was going to ask you about, that writing. So how does that come about? Does that come about because of the Masters, or did you just happen to know somebody who was running one of those sites, or how'd that come about?
I've always, even from my early days, I mean, I went to a Jesuit high school. I'm a fairly educated guy, fairly elevated intellectually. I'd like to consider myself that way anyway. But I've always liked to write. I've always liked to read. I've always been a fan of literature. And I noticed one day, the Jiu-Jitsu Times has been around for a long time. They've been out on the market for a while, and I started writing blog posts before that. Like I had my blog. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start writing, and I just write things on my blog posts. And they were horrible. They weren't bad, but they weren't great. I mean, they were very insightful, but as far as the actual writing quality, like they weren't great. Yeah. I'm still learning how to piece the things together and make it happen. But I reached out to a mutual friend of mine, Emil Fisher. Introduced me to the editors for the Jiu-Jitsu Time, and I told him, hey, look, I would be interested in providing content for you guys if you'd be interested in doing that. And they were like, sure, absolutely. So I started writing little pieces for them. I started writing pieces about the Masters. I started writing pieces about whatever I felt like writing, and they were very, very cool with printing them for me. Very cool. They had an editor. The editor would read it, give me some reviews, tell me to rewrite here, do this, that, and then they'd run them. And like, you feel real cool when you see something you've written that gets published. It's pretty damn cool. It's a cool feeling. So I got involved in doing that. And, again, just like you said before, like I feel it. And one of the things that really keeps me sane and really keeps me pushing forward, there's an odd desire inside of me that feels like my pain and suffering is valuable to other people, because I can show them that it can be beaten, and I can do the things that I can do and the things that I've lived through and the process that I've gone through, and try to help make the world a better place in that regard. And whether or not I'm doing that or not, whether it's just the wheels spinning in my brain, making me feel like it's a weird desire. I really feel that by writing my articles and doing my podcast, I'm trying to contribute to help people. If there's people out there, like people that come up and take pictures, and people that read my articles, and change, people listen to this podcast and they hear what I have to say, and it makes them want to snap out of things and go out and find some focus, and all about it. And I'm all about it. Like anytime you do things like this, anytime you do something that's recorded, anytime you do something that's written down and stored somewhere, it's there. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be there forever and ever and ever on some website, on some digital history. It's there for prosperity, and everybody that reads that will have the feeling that you're giving out of that. But,
Absolutely, man. And like you said, it's good for you and good for everyone else. And it's kind of just good all around. It's one of those things that really has if it can, a zero-sum impact where there's no negative to it, where it's causing good for you. It's causing good for those who interact with it and everything like that. And I think that's just something that we should all aspire to. And I think they've done some research, and I've read articles. I haven't read the fucking research, but where they talk about.
You're not a scientist, Brandon. Get out of here.
No,
you lie.
no,
I thought this is a scientific podcast. You're wasting my time, bud.
Yeah. I only clarify my statements like that now because my girlfriend will say stuff like that. She's like, "You haven't read the research. You read a fucking article. Don't."
you read a blurb.
Yeah.
You read the headline.
Exactly. Because she actually is a scientist, so it's like offensive when I try to pretend to be one for like half a second.
That's
so,
great. That's great.
But so they talked about that, like doing, volunteering, like giving back to people and stuff like that is one of the best ways to make you feel better, is to make other people feel better. That's something about the social aspect of us as humans or some shit like that. So I think what you're doing, even if no one was reading it, which isn't true, even if you weren't making anybody's life better, which again isn't true, you're still making your life better, which has a net impact on the world as it is. So I think it's all worthwhile. And that's one of the things I always try to tell people is like, sometimes, man, just what you're doing is all that matters. You don't have to worry about the results as much. Just do what you're doing to make that positive change. And then if it goes somewhere good with it, great. If not, if it just makes your day better, fuck it. Sometimes all you need.
Brother, if more people were to listen to that advice, it would be such a better world. Like, so many people are so concerned about what other people consider to be important, and it's really about what you consider to be important. I said this earlier on a podcast earlier. I was talking about, like, my meager rise to some kind of notoriety in the world. And it was so funny. At the point in which I realized that I was starting to take traction and starting to gain ground on that was the point when I realized I quit doing it to try to get famous. I quit doing it to try to get attention. Like, when you just do things because you love it, and when you do things because this is what I want to do, you do things because I dig this, and then you have the discipline to keep at it. That's when you get traction. That's when you start to get to your place. Because the point is like, you can't have passion and you can't be concerned about what other people think. You can't be concerned about the end game. You just have to keep cranking things out. Like, I do podcasts every week, and every once in a while I'm passionate about it. Sometimes I don't feel like fucking doing it, but I do it anyway because that's what I want to do, because I have the discipline, and I know the long term is just putting things out, cranking them out, getting things through. And there you go.
Absolutely, man. Showing up is one of the greatest victories we can have.
Showing up is half the battle, bro. Showing up is 90%, 75%, man.
Yeah. That's all I'm saying. Like, I think, like you're talking about, that's what it comes to. Again, no matter what your it is, if it's jujitsu, if it's your job, if it's freaking school, if it's even trying to just convince somebody
be a better
to
parent,
exactly,
be a better brother or sister,
And that's one of the things I think gets lost in a lot of things, because we want to constantly give people props, but only for like exceptional behavior. No, give people props for showing up, man. Because as somebody who's had people not show up, and I'm sure you have as well, that's an option too. We always act like showing up is just granted. It's not. It's fucking not. People cannot show up, and that's always something that could happen. So when people do show up, give them respect for that. You know what I mean? Like, give them some kind of props for that. Now, again, like you said, showing up's only half of it. You still have to put some effort in when you're there, but at least you took that first step and got there, because not everybody does, and that shit sucks.
I'll tell you what, man, when I start talking about, I've been around fighters for decades, like literally decades. I've been around professional fighting since like my teens, like watching professional boxers and seeing how they work and things like that, and the concepts that they go through. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you without a doubt, the number one recipe for success, making it to the top, is accountability and showing up. Literally just the people that say, I'm going to be there. And when they say they're going to be there, they show up. When they say they're going to come spar that morning, they're there to show up. You got to find them. You don't have to walk around looking for them. There's not some dumb freaking excuse about how the girlfriend did this or the car broke down. They figure out a way to be where they need to be because they know it's what they want to do. I'll take that over ridiculous talent and ego any day of the week, brother. Accountability. That's why Billy Q is a perfect example of that. I always say that every time I talk about Billy Q. That kid, unfalteringly for the past 10 years, have come to class, trained, never gave up, kept coming back, got an injury, came back on the mats, and look where he's at now. He's in the UFC.
Absolutely, man. Like I said, Billy Q, and I told him this on on the podcast as well. One of the things too is Billy Q probably started at GTS at best a year before I did, or something like that, right? And as far as skills and everything goes like that, he's always been better. He's always been those steps ahead of me and stuff like that. But he rocketed it off because he kept training. I stopped getting better at that stuff because I stopped training. And again, I take no shame in that, or if that was the choices.
You had a career, you had other things going on in your life. Yeah. You know, he wanted to be fine. That's all he wanted to do.
Well, let's be honest. Sometimes I just didn't fucking want to go. Like that was me. That's me, because jiu-jitsu is always going to be part of my life, but it's never something that is. I go through spurts of being focused on certain things, whatever. And jiu-jitsu is one of those things that it's always, like I said, it's always going to be something I do, but it's never going to be the thing that I do. And so for me, that is always what's going to be true for me. And I had to be honest with myself about that, because when I was training for my second kickboxing match, I remember one time I pulled up to the gym and I sat in the car and I'd gotten my ass kicked, 3-4 days, whatever before that. And like coming in and I don't know how long before the fight. And I just sat there like, I want to fucking do this. As a guy, I don't want to do this like ever again. And until that was my realization. Like, look, man, you're doing this because you think you should be, because you want to be a tough guy, you want to do whatever. But like I had those moments. I'm like, this isn't me. Like, don't get me wrong. When I get in that ring, it's whatever. We're going to do this, right? But I don't want to continue to do this. It's not the ring. Getting to the matches is like the easy part. It's all the shit before there that I don't want to do. You know what I mean? Like, if I just showed up and be perfectly trained and in shape and everything, all ready to go for a fight, I'd fight every weekend. Everybody, like most of the people we know would. But where it separates people like Q, like yourself, like Fervol, like all these guys, is the fact that they have to be there at 4 a.m., 6 a.m., 7, whenever it is, 5 days a week, 6 days a week. And that's the shit that really breaks people down. You know what I mean? Because the worst part of fighting for me was either the weight cut or the hours when they're waiting for them to call your name. That's the worst, the absolute worst. But once you get in the ring or the cage or mat, whatever,
that's the easy part.
Yeah. By then I had no emotion. Like, that's the way I always described it. Was empty. I was empty.
It's over before you even know what happened.
Yeah, exactly. It's fucking nuts. So I'm, like I said, I'm right there with you, man. That's dedication it takes to be truly great at anything that you're trying to do, is showing up and then actually putting in work and getting better at it. And like you said, film or whatever else you're watching to get better at it after you've done it. Because it's not just I did this thing today and now I never have to worry about it again, never try to get better. It's like, no, where did I mess up that armbar? Where did I mess up that heel hook? Whatever else it was, you know what I mean? And then you get better from that.
There ain't no secret recipe to success. There ain't no cheat codes to success. You got to put the work in. Everyone that's ever mastered their field, I don't care if it's Stephen Hawking, I don't care if it's, George St. Pierre, they didn't just wake up with a magic ride that took them to the top. They put work in across the board, and they did the mundane, dumb, detailed things over and over and over again, because that's the way you get better.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, man, if I start losing motor function in my body, I'm not looking at fucking physics ever again. So yeah, I'm right there with you. If you're still reading that shit when you can't even move your fucking hand anymore, yeah, dude, that's what it's about. That's dedication.
That's right.
So
you still get a boner though. That was pretty cool. That was a little
because it's that in the movie.
I hope my mom's not watching this. That's just where my mind drifted to. I couldn't help it, guys.
Speaking of your mom, though, man, your mom, I love how much your mom has become part of that community as well in jiu-jitsu. She is like everybody's mom. She is amazing. I love watching her comment on different things on Facebook and everything like that, because she doesn't comment like a normal mom does, where like a normal mom will show up and comment like, oh, you look so cute here. I wonder, but your mom like actually participates in the conversation. She talks a little shit every once in a while. Stuff. I love it. She's an amazing person as well.
Yeah, she loves that damn Facebook.
Yeah, but good. She's good at it. She's actually good at it. She's not a typical mom on Facebook, which I always appreciate seeing.
Don't tell her that. Every once in a while, I gotta put her on Facebook timeout.
I'm with you, man. And my mom will definitely see this. But she just got on Facebook.
Well, thank you very much. thank you very much for the compliments to my mother. I appreciate that.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, well deserved. And she obviously did a okay job raising somebody as well. So I mean, props all around on that. But it was like I said, I'm right there with you because my mom just got on Facebook and she does do a lot of the typical mom stuff. My mom is on Facebook now, like the old email chains used to get back in like the early 2000s. With like she's doing those same like take this quiz to find out what kind of mother you are or whatever on this crap. And I'm like, oh Jesus, it's killing me.
My mother loves to show me like friend requests from like Nigerian princes that want to get to know her. I'm like, Mom. She's like, should I message back Hakeem Tawalakwaka? I'm like, no, Mom. Please don't. He doesn't think you're pretty. I promise.
My girlfriend likes to watch 90 Day Fiance, and if I see your mom on there, I will lose my shit.
Yeah, please call me first. Give me the heads
up. She gets on there like, oh Jesus, she did it. Like he's a real guy.
Speaking of that, what a train wreck that's literally of in the history of train wrecks. I don't think I've ever seen a show that amazing and that twisted. It's absolutely insane. If you folks are not watching what 90 Day Fiance is, what it's called. 90 Day Fiance. If you're not watching 90 Day Fiance, oh my God, like turn this off and go watch that right now.
Dude, I just, oh my God, man. And like I said, I'd never seen it before either. She would like watch episodes and I'd walk in and I'd see them and I'm just like, I hate everybody who's on the screen right now.
But it draws you in. You can't stop watching it. You just can't go away from the utter catastrophe that you're witnessing on television. And you have to keep watching. You have to keep watching to the next one. Big Ed, come on, really?
Some of those episodes, they make me mad, man. They make me so mad because I'm seeing like these guys or girls or whoever is the like the state,
whoever the mark is. One of them's always the mark.
Exactly. And then you just see the shit they go through. I'm like, I would lose my mind. Like I can't imagine. I just try to put myself in that position where like some girl who's in Russia or whatever, like stood me up at the airport, like after I flew to another country, I'm like, I would burn the whole fucking shit down. I'd take out everybody.
I definitely would not fly back again in 6 months.
Oh my God. Yeah. And like try to maintain a relationship because she sent a I'm sorry text or some shit like that. I feel bad for those people, but at the same time, like, come on, man, you're on TV.
I'm sorry. Could you pay my light bill this month, please?
Oh my God. If we haven't met yet and one of your messages to me is to pay for anything, I'm like this is over. This is over immediately.
Immediately it's I think I'm good.
Like screw this. If I'm looking for a gold digger, I can find one in the States. I don't need to fly for that.
Exactly. When I can actually touch and see and feel.
Exactly. There's no reason for that. That's why Instagram exists, so you don't have to go to Russia. There's plenty of people here.
Exactly. Instagram or Tinder.
Oh my God. Oh my God!
There's someone for everyone in the States. Trust me. If you're that lame and you're willing to pay for it, you can find you somebody that'll take your money here in the States. You don't have to go overseas.
Absolutely, man. We have to stop outsourcing jobs, including gold digger.
100%. 100%. Keep American jobs in America.
Oh man, no, that's freaking awesome. So you actually watched that show?
I did. I watched. So the girl I'm dating, she had me watch about half of the final season, the last season, the one with Big Ed and the Russian girl. So I didn't see the entirety of it, but I'm not gonna go back. I'm backlog, and I started watching from where I was at, and I was like, oh God, now I got to continue watching it. But I watched all the way to the end of this season with the Russian girl with Big Ed and I forget all their names, but it was just then the Russian girl that came back to the States and went after the freaking the guy from Kentucky when his girlfriend was there at the house. How awesome was that? She shows up, I'm here from Moscow, and the other chick he's dating, he was his friend for ages, and just that guy was an asshole. He was an asshole. He was playing them both. He was not a very good person.
And there's a bunch of them on there. They're like, again, some of them are marks and you feel bad for them. And then some of them are assholes. And you're like, fuck you. I hope you two unhappy people end up together just so your life is that miserable.
Just because your life is that bad. It's just fun. And then the whole train wreck of it's just when you watch the show, you get through one episode and you watch like one clip up and you think, oh, it couldn't get worse than this. And then the next clip's up and you go, oh my God, what in the hell how do these people think this is okay? Why are they letting it be filmed? Why are they filming this? Why are they allowing this to be published?
Yeah, that's the part that always gets me too, is that you're not only making these terrible choices for your own life, you're telling everyone in the world that you're making these terrible choices for your own life. Like, I don't think they can't get paid much, if anything, for that show. I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, I don't.
Nowhere near the amount of embarrassment they're putting through. Like, nothing is worth what they're going through. The 15 minutes of fame they're gonna get out of it.
So let me tell you this though. if they came to me and told me to be on one of the shows, I would be on those shows only because I
Oh,
know
yeah.
only because I know I'm lying. You know what I mean? If my life was really that sad, I don't think I would tell anybody, but I'd lie on the show. Like I tell everybody all the time, and one of these days is going to come true, and they're gonna be like, I can't believe he actually did it. It's like, I will definitely lie on TV to get my 15 minutes of fame. Not like a major lie, like, you know, I'm not going to go sue somebody for something they didn't do, anything like that. But if it's just having a fake relationship with some catfish person, I'll do it all day, and I'll cry and I'll be all pathetic.
I'm a whore for the spotlight, baby.
Exactly.
Anything it takes.
Two things: spotlight and money. You know what I mean?
Spotlight and money, yeah, exactly.
But
Money, like 10 grand's life changing for me, baby. 10 grand. I mean, they ain't much. Me and Master Matt Arroyo always has a joke. We always laugh about that. I always tell him there ain't much I wouldn't do for $1,000. He's thinking he was trying to put a television show up about that, like Kevin Gallagher. What will Kevin Gallagher do for $1,000? The answer is there's a lot of shit I'll do for $1,000. $1,000. That fuck yeah, $1,000 a lot of money, dog.
Yeah, I would definitely watch this show. I think everybody's gonna watch this show. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Now, you might get a whole new fan base though. You're gonna get a lot of Steve-O's.
Right. It might get a little creepy.
Yeah, you're gonna get a lot of Steve-O fans and all that type of stuff. You're gonna become the new like Jackass or whatever. But Jesus, or you can just go out there and open an OnlyFans.
That's the next step.
Yeah. Billy, just call yourself oh damn it, what did I had something for this? Like Billy Mays, another product placement or something like that. You would just be another Billy Mays OnlyFans page. I think there's some legs there.
I actually had a friend of mine that is in the infomercial industry. He was the CEO for As Seen on TV. He used to do private lessons with me.
Mm-hmm.
He knew Billy Mays pretty well. He used to always tell me, dude, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to figure out a way to get you in as a Billy Mays double. It's going to happen. I'll get you paid. He's like, we're going to figure out a way to make that happen for you.
No, dude, that would have been great. So RIP Billy Mays too, by the way. That's fucking sucks. But oh God. Because I don't think, when did like the first person who you even remember who the first person was that like told you looked like Billy Mays or whatever, or started that joke?
Oh, it's been gone. So somebody, I can't remember who it was, but it was really funny. It might have been Master Matt or Rob Kahn or something like that. Actually took my picture and put it next to Billy Mays and kind of like one of those like, oh, this is Kevin, this is Billy Mays. And it went viral for a little bit on Facebook. And I think that was the first time someone really said I look like Billy Mays, because it really is. It's uncanny how much I look like Billy Mays, especially when I'm tired. I get the wrinkles around the outside of the eyes and I get all squeeze up in there. I go, oh, how you doing? OxyClean.
There's so many nicknames that go around the gym in general that I don't even know like where they come from. And then as soon as you see them, they're like, holy shit. Yeah. Like I was telling this Cake Boss this when I was talking to him or whatever. I knew that dude for like 3 years before I realized he was actually on the show Cake Boss.
That's where the name came. You're like, what the fuck does Cake Boss mean?
Yeah, I thought just because he worked at like a bakery somewhere or something like that, that there was like, oh, they're making joke, haha, Cake Boss. He's got the Italian accent or whatever, stuff like that. And then I find out like years later that he was actually on the show, and I'm like, shit, I am a terrible friend. I don't pay attention to people's lives enough.
Yeah, I used to watch that show. You ever watch that show, Cake Boss? It was a good show. That was really funny. One of my favorites. I recognized him immediately when he walked in the door as Cousin Anthony. I remember the first time we walked in the gym, we were on Henderson. He walked in the back door and I was like, holy shit, that's Cousin Anthony. Like literally, like I was screaming, hollering, and people were looking at me like I was nuts. And he took a picture of me because he knew immediately who it was. Cake Box actually had his he tells stories about having his little 15 minutes of fame. Like he had his little thing for a little bit. He was kind of a big deal in small little circles up in Hoboken, and he used to be like invited to parties in Manhattan and be like the guest, you know what I mean, like the Paris Hilton, like hey Cousin Anthony, if Cake Boss is here this week. He had some funny stories about some things that went down for him when he was Cake Boss extraordinaire, Cousin Anthony from Cake Boss.
But see, and he's got that personality that makes sense for too, because like you believe that he's a reality TV guy or whatever, because he has a big personality and he's not shy about almost anything in his life.
No, he's Italian. That is. You want to talk about? You want to go and you want to find the stereotypical Italian? It's Anthony Bellafini. Yeah. That dude is Italian. Hey, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Super big act, super big personality. Sometimes you say a few things and then he might get a little upset about it. You don't know why he's upset, but you have to apologize and hope it's okay.
Accurate. That is an accurate description, dude. So there was something that I talked to you a little bit about before we got started here as well that I saw and it shocked me, whatever. So generally speaking, on social media or whatever, you're not one of those people who's out there carrying your digital tiki torches and saying a lot of stuff about politics in general, whatever, stuff like that. But it got to a point this year that just through all the nonsense and everything that was going on, and I don't even know if it was necessarily political. It might have been more about COVID or anything. I can't remember exactly which post it was now that I first saw it. It was like you just had like enough, and you're like, dude, I can't fucking take this shit anymore. These people got to like stop running their mouths about everything or whatever. It was like, where'd that energy come from? You don't have to like say a specific post or like anything like that, but just like how fed up were you at that point when that finally came around?
I've always had my political opinions. I don't care to speak about them as much because it's not important. But I've had my ideas about where I lie politically. The thing that I noticed the most about the world we're living in now is that there are so many people out there that think they are informed and think they are educated to the facts that really have no idea what they're talking about because they're completely manipulated by false realities. And I don't want to get too deep into where I go with this, but I have a couple opinions on some things, and I just feel like we are reaching a point in society in general where we're tipping past the point of rational thought. I mean, it used to be you could have political conversations with someone, and if you disagreed, it was cool, but you moved on with your life and everything was fine. Like we literally have people like rioting in the streets with one another over their political points of views, and families are being torn apart. You can't go to Christmas anymore because you're going to fight your uncle over which side of the political aisle you go on. And the biggest reason for that is just because people are so uninformed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care to talk about politics much anymore because I don't care to start to continue to build that discourse. I think we're so divided anymore that it's impossible. Anytime you speak your opinions on things, all it doesn't do any good because you're not changing anyone's mind, and then you end up spewing hatred, which causes more issues for us in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
In general, I'll give you one little point of view, and this is what I hold true to. Like, we don't, maybe it's right. Maybe the journalistic integrity of our community is lost now. I don't believe so, but maybe like news media is completely bought and paid for, and we have no truth to be told to us anymore. But I tend to believe we still live in America, and I still love America as the greatest country in the world. And I believe in the institutions that the country is based upon. And one of the institutions that makes this country so great is the idea of a free press. And, when we start to challenge those institutions, we start to challenge the Justice Department, when we start to challenge the Electoral Congress, when we start to challenge the people that we've appointed to be in the government to the point to where we believe the system is so flawed that we want to burn it down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the hell are we doing anymore? Like, why are we even living here? Like, who is manipulating, who's pulling the strings to make us believe that America is no longer the greatest country in the world? Because it really is. It really truly is. If we allow our systems to continue to work, are they perfect? No way. Is news media always been biased politically? Of course it is. But I still believe that journalism integrity exists, because if it doesn't, what the hell are we fighting for?
Mm-hmm.
When you see these YouTube posts and I see all these like quasi freaking news sites out there, I think to myself, like, who the fuck is regulating that? What journalist integrity is involved with that? I mean, some dude in his mother's basement with a microphone and a camera put together some loop of whatever nonsense he wants to put it out there, and people are taking that as the word of God, as opposed to some journalist that spent his entire life at the pursuit of freaking truth. I know lots of journalists, lots of people I went to high school with, lots of people I went to college with, that are super intelligent people that could have been doctors and lawyers, politicians, and made it to the top, made tons of money, that forwent that, got away from that, and went into journalism because they truly believed in the pursuit and the integrity of the journalistic process to try to keep checks and balances in line because they wanted to pursue that. And now we're telling me that those people are false, and whatever nonsense that's coming out on Facebook or YouTube is the truth, when in reality they're probably fucking Who knows what's unregulated bullshit's going on over there? Anyway, long story short, let's stop hating each other, people. Jesus Christ, let's move on in our lives and make America great again. You know what I mean? And not to use it, maybe that was a poor reference, but I mean that in general. You're really to make America great again. Let's stop fighting over bullshit and get back to the reality of life. The world ain't gonna fucking change, man. Democratic, Republican, like the end of the day, we're also Americans, and we're gonna pull this shit together again.
Yeah. And I think you what you said there is absolutely correct, because if nobody is vetting the small media source, it doesn't suddenly make it more honest. It just makes it a different type of bias.
100%. Like they're completely susceptible to whatever. I mean, it's proven facts that foreign entities and the Vladimir Putin and the Russians are fucking. They have troll bots that are out there pushing all these agenda. Why do you think we hate each other? Why do you think we're so divided anymore? It's because it's being influenced. But I'm not saying they bought elections. I'm not saying they did all the things. I mean, we could talk about that. We could talk down that loud as we want. We could talking about how like politicians could be Russian spies. That's a different story. There's verifiable, factual data that Vladimir Putin and Russian entities, the overseas entities, are using social media to divide us and cause this hysteria. And we still buy into it.
Well, and I think that because at the end of the day, we want to believe what we want to believe. And so if a source gives it to us, we don't necessarily vet that source as much as we vet a source that says something opposite of what we want to believe. And so now what you're talking about there as well is a matter of facts instead of a matter of opinions, because that's what a lot of politics used to be based around. Let's go with like some of the big ones without giving our own perspective on them, but like abortion, different things like that. They were matters of opinion more than facts. There was no real factual basis to you either being for or against abortion. You had your reasons because of religion or because of the way you felt or whatever else the case was. And now we're in these things where facts are no longer facts and they're called into question. And then if you can disprove one small piece of something, then they act like the entirety of what was said is no longer verifiable, so it just throws out the baby with the bathwater type of situation. So I'm right there with you, man. And I think one of the things that I've stuck to is that we've allowed social media is not the problem. It's the people who are on social media, the way we interact with, the way we use it, and all these type of things. And that's part of what's going on, is because now it used to be just one, like we all knew one guy who we grew up with who would say outlandish shit. And we were like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? Come on, man. Nobody's believing you. But now you give him a computer and he finds other people who believe it. And then it suddenly gets to the right level. And now people are going, yeah, that's great. Let's give him 1 million views on YouTube.
YouTube used to be like what your stoner friends watched when you came over there. And you're like, what are you watching? What is that dumbass conspiracy? You really? And then you get high, you kind of laugh about it. Maybe there's some truth to this. Now that's mainstream. Those crazy, insane, unverified, unvetted sources and news stories are what people generally take as reality, and that is so fucking far gone from off the maps. Like we're going. It saddens me because I'm concerned. I don't know that we could put that genie back in the bottle again. I think we've reached a point in technology that like propaganda is just like force fed down our throats without our even understanding it's happening at this point.
Well, the one thing that I will say about that is I do have faith in the generations coming up with it, because I think a lot of generations have done this. You've seen this over the course of history, whatever. They invent something that they don't know necessarily how to handle the best way. So you have, planes or whatever else, stuff like that. And then you have a generation or two later, and they start to figure that shit out. And you're like, all right, here's how we need to manage this. We're not going to fall for the same shit that the generations before us fell for and stuff like that. So I think you have a lot of kids who may be better at that and maybe recognize, hey, don't believe the stupid shit you see just because it seems like something you should believe in. But also, I think that we're continuing to look at what that means. Now, my concern, again, not to get too political on this, but my concern of what's coming now is the antitrust lawsuits that they're starting to levy against Google and Facebook and stuff like that. Because here's one of the things that always makes me concerned when it happens. You have bipartisan hatred for that. So what you're telling me is that we have a country where everybody's talking about freedom of speech and they're talking about Facebook censoring you. What do you think happens if the government gets involved in that? You think there's going to be less censorship? That's what's going to happen?
Yeah, we definitely don't need the whole reason for journalism is to keep the government in line. Government journalism doesn't do that. Government sponsored media doesn't do that.
Absolutely.
It's fucked. There isn't really any real good answers to that. And I wish that I could share in your optimism for the future, Brandon. But I just think we're all fucked. I think we've hit a tipping point in our society.
Hey,
cleanses upon us.
Well, again, going back to my non-scientific roots, I maintain that the world is largely overpopulated. I don't mean largely in like a number. I just meant that as an, I guess, description for no reason.
Watch yourself there, Bill Gates.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm just saying, like, Bill,
you're gonna get hate mail.
Bill Burr has a joke where he talks about, he's like, everybody wants like something about like the world's overpopulated, but nobody wants to fucking die. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so he always has different jokes about how you kill people off. He's like, if anybody's on a cruise ship, just blow up the cruise ship, because anybody who goes on a cruise ship doesn't deserve to live anyways. You know, like shit. Again, he's obviously jokes and stuff like that. But like the point is, if
are they though? Right, sorry.
I've never been on a cruise ship, so I'm biased. I can't say. You know what I mean? I've never been on one to see who's on there, but I'm not so
either.
It's one of those things. It doesn't affect me. Fuck it. Why not? No, but so I think that if we are going to do something that's going to cause a mass culling of people, I do think that it's not so bad that we won't be able to halt it. I don't think it's going to be so bad that we're going to see the world fall apart based upon some Facebook memes. If memes take us out, fuck it. We don't deserve to be at the top of the food chain. We deserve to get fucking killed off. If we got lions out here who are fighting poachers and all those other things, and we get taken out by a fucking Pepe the Frog, you know, we just don't deserve to live anymore. That's my view on that. A little dark, but I think that's where we're at right now. So
I did. It's very dark.
But like I said, not that might have just flipped that optimistic shit you just said. Like now I'm on the opposite side of that. I'm like, at the end of the day, like if it happens, it happens. So be it. You know, bring on the axis.
I try to make small changes in my small community whenever possible, and other than that, I don't know. I just hope the world doesn't burn down around me.
Absolutely, man. And like they say, like you said before, that's kind of the shit that I wanted to do here. And then one of the things that I wanted to start when I started doing this was just having those type of conversations with people who see things differently and with people who see it the same, just people in general, so people can hear those conversations and kind of go through that thought. Like, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to fucking go out there and brainwash anybody. That's not, first of all, I don't care enough about what you think to brainwash you. That's really number one. I'm far too lazy. I'm far too lazy, and I just don't care enough about what you think to brainwash you. So anything I say is not me trying to brainwash you. It's just my own opinion on the matter. And if you believe it, so be it. If you don't, so be it as well. That's not got nothing to do with me. But like you said, the one thing I want us to stop doing, though, is stop just believing some shit because it aligns with our worldviews. I've been guilty of that too. And that's why I try to Google shit every time I see it. And we also have to be careful. I do think we need to be careful of just taking a lot of major news sources at their word, because what the new system has put into place is speed is more important than going through the normal process you would be able to do back in the older days where you would verify things like 18 times. You know what I mean? So they do put out some stats, but we have to also say they're not doing it, one, generally speaking, out of purpose. They're not doing it on purpose. And nor are they doing it at such a level that they just become worthless sources. And the guy who aligns with your worldview, like you said, out of somebody's basement is more in line with that. Alex Jones is not outpacing CNN. That's not where we are.
No, that's a good point. I want to believe that, Brandon, but sometimes I just don't know anymore. 70 million people, brother. All right, on that note, I got to get going, my man. I'm falling asleep in this chair, brother.
I got you,
fun, man. Yeah, it's been fun, man.
Absolutely, man. Let's do this again sometime. Thank you for coming on here. I'm sorry that we had to get it so late, but you're a very busy man, and I take it whenever I can get your time. So
thank you for having me on. It really was a pleasure. You did a good job. It was a good show, man. I had a good discourse, good conversations, man.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much, man, and I will leave it at that. Thanks for checking out Starting Nowhere. Make sure you check us out on Spotify and iTunes or any of your social media platforms.